G'day battlers, and today is a big day because Melmetal is officially back. Today we're going to check out vbasist winning the India Qualifiers, the first tournament of the official championship series in the Might and Mastery season, and sort of the first chance to see all of these big Pokemon like Lapras and Grumpig sort of show in the spotlight. And Melmetal is apparently a big read here, taking down Mandibuzz, taking down Lapras, taking down like Azumarill that is still apparently around as well. Melmetal is a big read, and it has managed to win the entire India Qualifiers here, which if you don't know and you didn't watch my video from the other day watching some of the Claydol battles, essentially you go through the qualifiers to qualify for the playoffs, and the playoffs is the final tournament where you try and qualify for the World Championships in India. And so essentially vbasist today, we're going to be checking out this team with Melmetal, Cradily, Clodsire, Jellicent, Talonflame, and Guzzlord. Now, Guzzlord is going to be a pretty big star of the show as well. I've sort of clipped through the battles a little bit. Melmetal, we're going to see not this round, but we will see it in the next round, and we're actually starting off in round number 4. And the reason for that is because it's an 8-round Swiss tournament, and the first 3 rounds, I mean, we were seeing Pokemon like, Pignite, Piloswine, Sky Shaman, and Ivysaur. So we're going to be skipping straight into round number 4 because this is where it really does start to get competitive, and so we're going to just jump into the action here. And so Nihanshu is the first opponent here with Wigglytuff, Shadow Feraligatr, the Grumpig, Fortress, Ferrothorn, and Malamar. And so straight away, you can kind of rule out Wigglytuff because it only really has one target, being that Guzzlord. Melmetal, I think here sort of provides some pretty decent like pacing, I guess, for the team, but I already know that we don't actually see it in this first round, unfortunately. And so I think that the sort of big danger zones for this team, for vbasist team, is that fighting type damage is quite scary. It hits Melmetal, it hits Cradily, and it hits Guzzlord. And so a Pokemon like Malamar that has access to dark type damage that hits the Jellicent, as well as Psywave damage to hit Clodsire, is going to be really big. So I expect that anytime an opponent has Malamar, they will be bringing it here. And I think that that means that it is big Guzzlord hours. It is time for Guzzlord to sort of show its stuff. It can actually win the one-shield matchup into the Malamar, and probably you sort of have to shore it up with some other Pokemon that are a little bit softer into the Malamar, like your Clodsires and your Talonflames. And I guess Grumpig is the other Pokemon that is also quite strong because of that fighting type coverage and the ability to hit all of the other Pokemon with Shadow Ball, and Guzzlord sort of provides some pretty good coverage there. Let's get into the battles though. Game number 1 of round 4. We actually get the Guzzlord lead into the Malamar. Really nice lead for us, and we are actually running that Dragon Claw Crunch moveset that Dunebug was running to 3rd place in the Vancouver Regional Championships. I should have mentioned as well that Melmetal here is actually going to be running double Iron Bash and Superpower, but I'll talk about that more in the next round because again, we know that it doesn't show up here. And you can skip in the timestamps if you want as well, but Guzzlord can comfortably win the one-shield matchup here, even taking the Superpower on the chin. And so if the opponent decides to no-shield this one, we will win this one. And yeah, Malamar goes down, and we're mad tapping on the Clodsire, and I do actually like this play because really, no matter what comes in, getting a little bit of energy on Clodsire won't be too bad, plus having that Guzzlord closing power for later. Fortress swapping is quite possibly the best possible scenario for Nihanshu here, because Clodsire comes in, right? We have a Talonflame in the back. If this Fortress swaps out, which it probably will, because this isn't a good matchup, and there's the swap out, we have Talonflame for that Fortress for later, and now because we have the energy advantage with Clodsire into the Feraligatr, we're able to put a lot of pressure onto this Gator. We take the Hydro Cannon on the chin, not too bad. Guzzlord is going to be able to come in and Dragon Tail all the way down, and now in comes back the Fortress. And we have our Talonflame ready to go in the back. Throw the Crunch, no defense debuff this time, but this one, actually, Fortress got a lot of farm there. So Fortress sort of needs to throw 2 Rock Tombs, which I think it has. 1 to get the shield, 2 to KO the Talonflame, and it's actually going to come down to whether the Clodsire in the back will be able to get to the KOing move, which we do have energy, so I think we should get there, although it's getting pretty close. Okay, we do get to the Sludge Bomb, and I think this should just be enough to KO. Oh, whoa, hang on, wait. Wait, it comes down to the fast moves, and Clodsire barely hangs on. Holy smokers, I didn't realize that was going to be so close, but that's kind of crazy. I guess clutch moves here. Well, game number 2, we've got the Guzzlord into the Feraligatr. Going to go straight for that Dragon Claw. Again, this isn't too bad for us because we do resist the Hydro Cannons. And again, you can sort of see, if we look at our back line here, we have the exact same lineup. vbasist was like, hey, if it worked once, it'll work again. And to be honest, against this team, I really do like the lineup. do have to go down a shield to win the matchup into the Feraligatr, because if they land that Ice Beam, it is lights out for the Guzzlord. So the Malamar comes in, and again, it's sort of not as good because we are in the sort of 0 to 1 shield, but because we had so much energy, we're still able to do a lot of damage to this Malamar, and because we have the Talonflame in the back, we at least have something to throw in here. Fortress comes in though, and this makes it a little bit awkward because we have to throw our energy to get this Fortress out of the way because we do not want to get hit by a Rock Tomb, and then Malamar's going to come back in and we can take the move, we can throw a fly, and it's going to be a pretty quick GG's on this one. So game 2 was a little bit more game set match. Game 1 was pretty crazy close to be fair, but that's GG's, and Nihan Chu goes down in round number 4, which means that vbasist is now 4-0 going into round number 5, and if we bring up round number 5, we are up against Play with Me. And for the rest of this tournament, rounds 5, 6, 7, and 8, all of the remaining competitors, everyone has qualified for the playoffs. So no one here has dropped more than 2 rounds by the end of the tournament. So it's going to get just more and more intense as the tournament goes on. Now, vBasis here is up against Play With Me 828, who's running Wigglytuff again, which is probably going to stay on the bench. Also the Emolga, Goodra, Drapion, Shadow, Lapras, and Dusclops. Now, Dusclops has obviously been buffed with Hex. Definitely a big target for the Guzzlord if we can land it. But Goodra is actually incredibly scary here because we don't really have a hard check on the team. Like, I'm trying to think of one, but when there's really no hard check, like Guzzlord is kind of the best you've got, and that's just a mutually assured destruction scenario where they're basically just taking each other out. It gets really, fine lines, sort of one turn sort of shenanigans by the end of it. But that's going to be the really tough Pokemon to sort of work around, I suppose, which I suppose means that it is time for Melmetal. Melmetal actually isn't a bad one. I remember looking at the PvPoke Sims. Melmetal into Goodra isn't like a hard win for the Melmetal, but looking at this team, Melmetal actually is kind of crazy because you've got the double Iron Bash for things like Wigglytuff as well. You've got the ability to hit the Lapras. You can win the Lapras matchup. You can beat Drapion as well. You've kind of got play into the entire squad. Dusclops is kind of the only part where it gets a little bit tough. So I don't know if we see it in game number 1, but we might see it in the later games. I know that we see it in this round. So if we go, game 2 and we haven't run it, we know there's a game 3, I guess. But we start off with a Guzzlord into Drapion, which is pretty decent, but we see the swap into the Lapras. Because Lapras is running Psywave now, we actually take literally no fast move pressure. We get the defense drop as well with the Crunch, which is pretty nice. Burn the shield just to take that Ice Beam away, and at this point, you're in a pretty decent spot. Like, if you can call that Ice Beam on the first move, you are just sitting really pretty, because you can take a second one, take it down to the Lapras. We are down a shield now, though, but we're going for that hard Clodsire swap in. I guess, oh, no, changing our minds, we're going to go for the Dragon Claw instead, and I think we're going to let Guzzlord go down because then we can bring in the Clodsire to the Drapion, because you really don't want to lose switch advantage and shield advantage. That could get a little bit dicey. To be honest, this is still a little bit like, it's not the greatest of scenarios because we don't have a quick ability to burn these shields off of the Drapion, and Drapion is actually going to add up the damage quite quickly. We do have our Talonflame in the back as well, but we can only do so much, so we need to start. Okay, Drapion goes down. It all comes down. Oh, okay, it's Goodra in the back. We need to somehow take out the Goodra. I don't think it can happen because Goodra has 2 shields. Talonflame, not going to do much fast move pressure because Incinerate is resisted. Clodsire, the Poison Stings aren't doing much damage either. Unfortunately, we've just got Goodra. And I guess we kind of lost our sort of main Goodra damager in the lead there. So okay, here it comes. It is Melmetal time in a really advantageous lead. Melmetal into the Lapras. You can actually barely win this one straight double Iron Bash. It's a little bit, dicier. You'd love to land a superpower somewhere in the mix, but you can just win straight double Iron Bash. Instead, we're going to go for the sort of cleaner route, I suppose, by landing the big superpower here, which is really nice. Get rid of the Lapras. But here comes the Goodra. Gonna go for the superpower straight away, which, I guess it depends how you want to go. They're just sort of guaranteeing they can get some damage onto the board, even though the superpower was obviously debuffed by the previous superpower. Gonna shoot up the Aqua Tail. At this point, it really is just about putting as much pressure and damage onto this Goodra as quick as possible because it is such a powerful Pokemon for Play With Me. Aqua Tail is going to be fine, and we actually will get to another Sludge Bomb, so we are at the very least going to be able to burn both shields off of the Goodra, which is pretty nice. I'm wondering if they're sort of just waiting in case there is a swap out here, or we're just actually going to get a little bit of an energy advantage in case they let it go. And they do let it go, which is really nice. And it's actually the Drapion in the back. So going for the Sludge Bomb bait, which is pretty crazy. Because, I mean, you're really just like, man, you're not going to get to another move here. They're not going to let you get to a second one. But still, Aqua Tail brings Clodsire down, and it is now up to Guzzlord to finish this thing off. I think that we can win it anyway, even though Drapion had quite a bit of energy advantage. But there's always the, room to try and go for a Melmetal catch, but that probably does more harm than good. We can just comfortably just take another move, Dragon Claw down, and we now tie this back up 1-1. We're able to deal, put all of our resources into beating Goodra, and we were able to clean up the rest. So let's see if it works again. Guzzlord straight into the Goodra this time. We have our Melmetal hanging out in the back. This is kind of best case scenario because you're sort of in an even shield scenario where if Goodra wants to stick around, they have to burn as many shields as you do. Because you can see Goodra is now at no health. We've burned one shield. vbasist is actually going to take the shield advantage, which I love here. Brings in the Melmetal, and this is another advantage of the Melmetal, I guess, is that you can just soak up the damage. That energy is going nowhere. That steel typing is really powerful, and there's not that many steel typings running around, which means that not many people are prepared for it. We see the swap from Dusclops into the Drapion now, and because we have the shields ready to go, this puts us in a pretty strong position because, I mean, with one shit, look how much damage the Incinerates are doing alone. It is ridiculous. One fly will be all we need to KO this Drapion. We can comfortably burn our last shield here. We have no shields left on the board. Fly will take out the Drapion, and then it's just that Dusclops in the back. And at this point, you can... I guess you don't get to the Brave Bird, but I don't think Dusclops takes us out here. Hex may have been buffed, but it doesn't mean that Dusclops is doing any more damage than it was before. vbasist, interestingly, actually just going for the fly. I guess they were a little bit worried, and instead just going to get the quick damage on, throw in the Melmetal, who can also tank the damage, I suppose, and we now have the double Iron Bash ready to fire as well, which is, it's crazy. Like, as a Great League player, I didn't really realize that Melmetal had such a quick move in its toolkit. It's literally 4 Thunder Shocks to the double Iron Bash, and so able to get the win there, 2-1 against Play With Me, who again goes on to qualify all the same. Round number 6, we're up against Rishab, who we actually saw in yesterday's video on Claydol as well. It was one of the opponents in that video, and Rishab is running that Credilli, Azumarill, Charjabug, Shadow Drapion, Talonflame, and Malamar. And, I wrote notes before this thing, so I was just like, I just wanted to make sure that I sort of knew what was going on. And I just wrote, I wrote one word, which was Malamar. Because Malamar is, again, these really scary Pokemon. As soon as there is fighting type damage, it is pretty scary into vbasist's team. And so, again, it is going to be that Guzzlord time. The problem is, this time Guzzlord is a little bit scared of the team in that, Azumarill is a little bit scary because we aren't running the Sludge Bomb set. Charjabug also has the ability to throw X-Scissors, and Talonflame can obviously get big damage in advantageous scenarios as well. So I still think Guzzlord is really good here. It's just going to be a little bit scarier than it was in the previous matchups. So let's jump into it and sort of hope we end up in a bit of an advantageous spot, I suppose. We've got the Guzzlord into the Malamar straight away, game number 1. We absolutely love to see it. We've got the Clodsire and Credilli in the back, so neither of those are great into the Malamar, and we do take the superpower straight away, and they swap out into the Azumarill, which I guess pro and con. Pro, we get to swap into our Credilli here, so we can sort of get our grass type on the water type, which is always nice to see. The con is that our Guzzlord is really weak for the next time that it has to face their Malamar. So hopefully it's still got enough juice in the tank. But until then, Credilli is going to throw these really quick grass knots. We do outpace the Azumarill as the Credilli. And so actually Malamar swapping straight back in, that has to throw the energy straight away because otherwise we were going to get our move off. And so that actually puts Guzzlord in a bit of a... Well, actually, they swap into the Credilli, catching the move here, which means that we're going to swap into Clodsire. Clodsire in a pretty good spot into the Credilli, although, again, the 2-shield scenario isn't where it loves to be, but Credilli wasting its energy on the Rock Tombs is kind of just great for us because it just means that Clodsire is just going to slowly whittle away this Credilli, and we will have energy ready to go into the matchup in the back as well. So maybe we don't have to rely on Guzzlord as much going into the Malamar, I suppose. Here comes that Malamar, and it is a little bit low on energy. We can shield up here, and we can guarantee ourselves we're going to get to one of our moves before they get to their next. So we can throw the Dragon Claw here, force that last shield out of the Malamar, because they definitely want to keep this thing around, knowing that they would be able to get another move off. We can use our last shield though, guarantee our charge move gets through, KO the Malamar, and it is now down to the Credilli in the back, and our Clodsire will be able to clean that one up. You can see you're just waiting for that switch timer to come up. We can tank even a Grass Knot from here. The poison typing really helps us out here, although a little bit closer than you'd like, but we do get the Sludge Bomb, get the KO, and this takes game number 1 in this round number 6. Going into battle number 2, we have the Guzzlord into the Talonflame. So it's still a decent spot for Guzzlord in that you are resisting the Incinerates, even though the charge attack damage does a lot to us. But look at the back line, because we are running the Clodsire Credilli core again. vbasist loves running the same team back. But if there's a Malamar back there, oh no, and the big Brave Bird coming through as well. I mean, okay, they swap into Credilli, which is kind of good for us because Clodsire will be able to do some big damage here. Obviously, the Sludge Bombs are adding up quite a bit, while the Rock Tomb's really not doing much at all. With Grass Knots, not doing too much either. Although, to be honest with you, it took it pretty well. And the swap and the catch into Credilli, but yeah, if they have I guess Charge Bug isn't too bad now if it's in the back, although they're staying in, so they probably don't have Charge Bug because otherwise they would definitely prefer it to be up against Credilli than Clodsire. So I feel like logically they have the Malamar, which is pretty bad because look how low our Credilli is, and then all of a sudden we have Clodsire to deal with it, and Clodsire will be taking super effective damage from the Psy Waves. It is in fact the Malamar. We have the shield advantage though. Why are we not throwing our moves? Surely we at least want to go for the chance. It looks like we've given up though. I feel like, oh, there was the full health. Okay, there was a lot of health on Talonflame as well. So yeah, it was pretty, I guess, understandable to give up. I guess the sort of a lose con there was the fact that we lost our main Malamar counter. Don't have to worry about it in game number 3 though. We are back. Guzzlord onto the Malamar. We have a chance here. We can even this thing back up. So take the superpower on the chin of Rashab, playing it the exact same way both times. Throwing the Dragon Claw straight away into the Talonflame this time. You can see that we've got a team swap as well. We actually have the Clodsire Melmetal this time. Melmetal a little bit scary into the Talonflame, so instead going to swap into the Clodsire here. Save that Melmetal for a little bit later. Take the Brave Bird, which obviously hurts quite a lot, but Clodsire, that bulky little thing, can hang on. Shield up the Fly as well, and here comes back the Malamar. So again, we're just going to try and get as much damage onto this thing as possible. Guzzlord has already lost a lot of health in the back because of that very first superpower, and the switch timer isn't up yet, so we kind of just have to let it go. Bring in the Guzzlord again. We will not quite get the farm down, but I think it's at the point that Melmetal can actually get the farm without a risk of another charge attack coming from Malamar. Really handy for Melmetal. We may not have Rock Slide for the Talonflame, but they actually swap into the Credilli to try and eat up the energy, which they do get a double Iron Bash to the face. And at this point, Credilli's not going to be able to do much, but what it can do is try and throw these Rock Tombs, reduce the attack stat of the Melmetal, so that maybe when Talonflame comes back in, Melmetal will not be able to get the KO. So here it is, a really good timing from vbasist as well, making sure that Credilli doesn't get another move off, burning the last Protect Shield off them. We're burning our shield now, and so now it really comes down to that Talonflame. Is the superpower going to be debuffed enough, or will it do enough damage to the Talonflame? And it is well enough. Credilli comes back in, we throw the double Iron Bash, get the KO, and vbasist secures the win up against Rashab in another close 2-1, needing to get the Guzzlord onto that Malamar. So really, really nice to see there, which does mean that we are going into round number 7, the second last round of the tournament, and we are getting a very different team here, and I love to see it. We have the Credilli, the Corviknight, Clodsire, Drapion, Shadow Annihilate, and Blastoise, big man Blastoise, gracing us with its presence from Spooky Mafia. Now, this is a bit of a scary one as well. Obviously, I was talking about how the fighting damage from earlier was pretty scary, of course from the Malamar, but also even from the Grumpig, even though we didn't see it. Annihilate is a very similar story. Scary for Melmetal, scary for Credilli, scary for Guzzlord, and that ghost type damage from Rage Fist is scary for the Jellicent, and you've got pretty decent matchups into the Clodsire and the Talonflame as well, so we're really going to have to be working around that Annihilate. And the Clodsire is actually quite strong as well, because again, we don't really have like a hard answer to it, to be honest with you. I guess Jellicent could actually do pretty decent here. You obviously want to avoid the Drapion, and that Corviknight moveset, it is running Ironhead Sky Attack, and Blastoise is running the Skull Bash moveset. And the Shadow Annihilate, I guess as well, is running the Rage Fist Close Combat. So I guess it's going to be a bit of a scary one, but let's jump into the, I guess, semi-finals of the tournament here, vbasist versus Spooky Mafia. Again, I left a bit of clip room here so I could ramble, but then I just pause anyway. So we've got the Talonflame into the Drapion, and again, we've been here before. It's not the worst, but we don't love being in this scenario. The Incinerate adding up really does do some work for us though. Shield up the first Aqua Tail, and now going for the Fly. We didn't want to go for good timing to make sure we could get that off and then swap. Throwing into the Guzzlord, we actually bait out the Clodsire, which sort of tells you that there's probably not an Annihilate here, because Annihilate would have been such a strong counter swap here to really just devastate the Guzzlord, but that would surprise me, because like surely we have the Annihilate in the back. So maybe they're actually just using up their Clodsire in a position where they don't have to deal with the Talonflame, because I think it is a Sludge Bomb Earthquake Clodsire, so I guess they're sort of making sure they don't have to face a ground type into a flyer. That could make sense as well. They could still be the ape in the back, but we're going to go for the fly here to try and take out the Drapion. Here's the swap into Melmetal, and if you haven't already swapped into ape yet, this is the time. If you have ape, you would swap into it now. So I guess no ape, which I guess means that we actually might be looking for a bit of a neutral scenario in the back line. Double Iron Bash takes it out, and it is the Credilli coming out in the back. That is not good for Spooky Mafia at all. The double Iron Bash is going to do a nice chunk of damage here with the superpower. Probably enough to get the KO here. Is not quite enough, but we do get the Thundershock down. I think at this point they sort of knew the writing was on the wall. Throw the move, and we catch it into the Talonflame, and this fly is going to be enough. I am surprised that Annihilate didn't come out, so maybe they correct it. I mean, they're literally called Spooky Mafia. I mean, how much more how much you could be built? Okay, straight away, literally in the lead, although not where they wanted to see it. Talonflame lead is pretty bad for the ape. So they swap into the Drapion. We counter swap into our Guzzlord. Again, sort of doing that thing where we get the Guzzlord, which would be pretty bad for us against the Annihilate, getting it out of the way, getting some value out of it, where we will be able to farm down this Drapion and have a little bit of energy to potentially throw into the ape, but we might be a little too low. Yeah, unfortunately, not going to be enough. So now Talonflame has to face this Annihilate with energy, which is definitely a little bit scarier. Didn't get a lot of energy, but it has a little bit. But you can see how much the Incinerates are really adding up here. And so throwing the fly is essentially just guaranteeing that we get the Protect Shield, because they are pretty much guaranteed to shield. And so now we use our shield because we want to try and Incinerate down. They're going to swap out into the Clodsire in the back, and because we have a Talonflame, which is pretty low health, and a Melmetal in the back who is not going to love Clodsire at all, especially with no energy. This is not good for us at all. Maybe they were trying to catch the Sludge Bomb, but now they even get a farm down with the Poison Stings. This is a nightmare scenario. The fact that we got rid of Guzzlord, which was kind of our only way to fight back against Clodsire, maybe we were a little bit too focused on... Actually, this is a bit of a wacky team from vbasist, because we were also double weak to the Annihilate, but maybe vbasist didn't believe they were going to run it because they didn't run it in game number 1. But regardless, we've got to adjust, and we do finally see the Jellicent coming into the field as well, which I really like into this team. We have the Guzzlord into the Credilli. We're just going to add up neutral damage. They're not going to do anything super effective to us. They're just going to throw straight Rock Tomb because Grass Knot is resisted, and they get the benefit of being able to reduce our attack. Obviously, this is actually also really good for us because our Jellicent is currently avoiding that Credilli. We're staying in a really nice spot, so we can throw the Crunch, almost taking out the Credilli as well. They do save it though, and they swap into the Drapion, which just lets us hard counter swap into the Clodsire. And so now just the big question comes, what is in the back? Because if it is that Annihilate, we will have that Jellicent ready to go in quite a decent position here. Now the Aqua Tail is going to fire off. It's going to bring us down into the sort of mid-yellow. We're still not at the dire straits quite yet, although the Poison Stings are actually starting to add up, which isn't something you hear too often, but we do decide to burn the Protect Shield here. Tries to catch the Earthquake into the Credilli. Instead, we go into our Guzzlord to sort of make sure that Credilli doesn't get any damage off onto our Clodsire. And they actually have Clodsire in the back. They did not bring the Annihilate, which this is actually better for us. This is such a good spot for the Jellicent to be. The super effective Surfs are really going to add up so fast. We can take the Earthquake on the chin, and we don't have to worry about super effective Rage Fists ruining our day. First Surf goes through. Here comes the Drapion swapping in. We're just throwing the Surf here to weaken it down a little bit, but mostly just so we can sort of run it down the switch timer a little bit, so we can bring back in Clodsire, throw the Sludge Bomb, get the last shield, get another Sludge Bomb, get the KO, and then it is all just down to the Clodsire in the back, where they need to unleash. They were actually going to lose. They actually just top left because we still had a shield, so even if they threw the move, we would guarantee the fact that we could get to the Earthquake which means vbasist is now 7-0 going into the final round of the Swiss tournament in the India qualifiers here. Again, already guaranteed. There's some usage data and spoilers, I suppose, if you look at that, if you caught it too quick. But here's the round 8 teams, and essentially vbasist and FAKExxSOUL have both guaranteed themselves a spot in the playoffs, which is the first weekend of April, where there will be the actual invitations for the World Championships. This is kind of just for glory. And so we'll see how it does end up going here. FAKExxSOUL running a very interesting team with the Credili, Azumarill, Talonflame, Drapion, and then running Kainto Marowak, saying, hey, it's not gone yet. It's not all Gastrodon time. And also the Shadow Sableye, which is also a bit of an interesting one where we do have the potential Dazzling Gleam that could destroy a Guzzlord. So let's just get into it. It's definitely going to be a bit of a fun one, I think. So jumping into game number 1, we have the Talon into the Marowak. I mean, to call a better lead, that's really a nice spot to see. And then we have the Drapion swap in, and we swap into the Guzzlord, although admittedly a little bit slow, but it's not too worrying. We do take the crunch on the chin pretty well though. So at this point, we're in a pretty decent position here. We know that Marowak is going to be scary though, because as much as Talon into Marowak is pretty decent in the head-to-head, if Marowak has a little bit of energy, or if you've used a few shields, all of a sudden those rock slides can really add up. And they actually swap into the Credili, so if you're vbasist here, you are cheering. You've got great neutral damage to throw into this Credili. You've got the Talonflame ready to go into the Marowak as soon as they swap in, just like we see here. Like, we are absolutely loving our position here, and we even have a Credili of our own with full health in the back. I mean, to be honest with you, this might be a 2-Pokemon game. We might have the ability to not show our third Pokemon, and that looks like it's what we're going for here. vbasist going to throw the fly into this Credili. Credili still has a shield, and FAKExxSOUL wants to see that last Pokemon. They want the information so they can use that going into the next game. So burning that last shield, we throw the fly here onto the Credili, hoping that it's enough. We do get that last shield, and now, okay, we just revealed that Credili is our last. We guarantee the win here, but it does mean that we are going to a game number 2 with a Grass Knot going to take out the Credili. Going to game number 2 now, we have the Credili into the Drapion. Not a good spot for Credili this time around. We would definitely prefer to be anything else. Luckily, we have a bit of an ABB into Drapion, although we don't seem to be using it quite yet. We've taken a lot of damage onto this Credili. Guzzlord and Melmetal both would be strong here, but the problem is both of them probably do have counters sort of lying around the corner. We'll have to wait and see what happens here, because it looks like we're going to let the Credili go. Just barely hanging on to get this Grass Knot off though, which means that we get a shield advantage for the cost of our switch advantage going down. We can take a move from the Drapion and get this farm down. And then it's going to be a bit of a question as to what comes in, because it could honestly be anything. They do have the Azumarill, which, you know, Melmetal does actually get the win into, but now we have to face Melmetal into the Shadow Sableye, which is a little bit dicey, pretty much just because Melmetal isn't the bulkiest of Pokemon. The Steel typing really does help it, but Sableye gets those foul plays very quick. Melmetal does get to the double Iron Bash quicker though. So foul play coming in, and unfortunately we don't quite get to our next one. So we're going to burn the shield to make sure that we can get our moves off. No shields left on this Sableye, which means we can get the double Iron Bash, take out the Sableye. Oh, not quite take out the Sableye, but at this range, like now that we're this low in health, Melmetal does not have enough gas in the tank to KO the Azumarill, and Guzzlord is going to go down to a single player off. I mean, this is actually not a good spot to be, unfortunately. Unfortunately, our line's just been called, in a sense. Like, our Guzzlord just has absolutely nowhere to go. Losing switch advantage was absolutely key in this matchup, unfortunately. If vbasist won switch advantage, I believe they would win this game. I think that getting the shield advantage wasn't worth it, but we now go into the final battle of the tournament. Talonflame into the Azumarill again, not really where we want to be, and unfortunately, we're a little bit ABA weak here. We can't swap into Credili because that's our only counter to Azumarill, and so vbasist decides to let the Talonflame take the hit, throw the big Brave Bird to try and take this Azumarill down, but now bringing in the Credili. And so now we're really just going to be hoping that Credili and Guzzlord can sort of do the job here. It is the Drapion in the back, which at this point, going to decide to throw the Rock Tomb to get the attack debuff before swapping into the Guzzlord, knowing that Guzzlord will be able to get the full farm down here, but We just need to be able to take out that Azumarill. That is the thing that is going to be really, really scary for us. And there's a third Pokemon in the back that we don't know as well. And we just have to hope that Credillia is going to be able to get through it. So let's hope that it isn't something like a Sableye, because Sableye is just going to be able to put too much pressure onto us. So here comes the Azumarill. We've got the Crunch ready to go. We almost get the Dragon Tail farm down. Okay, we're going to throw the Dragon Claw here just to secure the KO into the Azu. Or get the shield out of the Azu. Interesting. They really don't want to see Guzzlord in the back, I guess. Questionable play, but we get the Credillia coming back in here with energy, and it is unfortunately the Sableye in the back, and I think it is just, actually we're doing a lot of damage here, and we have a shield in tow. We will get to another charge attack before they get to a second one. The question becomes, are we then going to also be able to take out the Drapion? And unfortunately, I think the answer is no. We will not. We're going to get Shadow Claw down here. Okay, I love vbasist's play here. They go for the undercharge, knowing that they would need to get to another charge attack to get the KO. So unfortunately, we do go down 7-1 in the overall tournament. And so still, that makes us in equal first place. I think, which graphic did I click? This one. We are in equal first place with It's Ryu, that PvP person, Suvit, who we saw their Claydol battles yesterday, and FAKExxSOUL actually also sort of coming in equal first. So massive thank you to vbasist for sharing their footage, and let me know what you think about Melmetal in the Might and Mastery season. I think it could be a really interesting pick. Double Iron Bash, the fact that it is so quick, it is only 4 Thundershocks to the move. That's the same pacing as Drapion to Aqua Tail. It is like the fastest move activation in the game. Could be really powerful. Obviously, we didn't really see any Mandabuzzers, even though it was actually the #1 usage Pokemon in this tournament. We just didn't actually run into any, which would have really helped the Melmetal out a little bit. Even though we don't have Thunderbolt or Rock Slide, you still just win with Iron Bash and Superpower. But look, it's a really fun meta. Let me know what you think. And if you haven't checked out those Claydol battles, check those out as well. But with that said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, especially that subscribe one if you want to see more content like this. I'm looking to make a lot more coverage of especially these APAC Asian tournaments over the next few weeks and months, because unfortunately they don't have streams, and so we'd really like to sort of just promote them. So thanks for watching till the end as well to support these Asian battlers. And with that said, thank you to my patrons and supporters over on YouTube as well. And until next time, I'll see you then. So bye.